Hey guys, it's Conor from FisherMac here, and today we're out on the beautiful River Barrow. We're at a gorgeous place right now called St. Mullins, and we just came out here because this is where you are going to catch shad for this year's shad run. In front of me I've got all the equipment that I'm going to be using for this year's shad run and all the equipment that I'm going to share with you that you should be using for the shad run. At least in my opinion, you should be using these lures. This is my setup, and this is what I use to have like the best. The shad run is such a beautiful thing that happens out here. It's such an incredible thing that happens out on the River Barrow. This doesn't happen in many places of the world, but essentially what happens is this species, the Twaite Shad, will run up the Barrow up until a certain point, and then they will all just breed in the rivers here. Very similar to salmon, but they do often go back out to the rivers, unlike salmon that will end their life, you know, at the top of a river, at the near to the source. But yeah, essentially we're out here. It's an absolutely beautiful day. We were out fishing for a little bit. Didn't have much success, unfortunately, but look, that's fishing. So I'm just going to run you through my setup and what I'm going to be using. St. Mullins is actually a tidal part of the Barrow. It's the only tidal part of the Barrow up until the weir at the end of St. Mullins, and I think that's why the shad run up only up until that weir at the very end, so you can catch them all the way along this stretch here. The fish species itself, they run from around mid-April up until as late as June sometimes. We're losing light here very quickly. That's a cloud now. Actually, fun fact about shad, they are, I believe, now don't quote me on this, Seb's gonna fact check this later, but I think there's 3 rivers that they run in the world. This species, the Twaite Shad, I think there's 3 rivers in the world. I think they're all in Europe, and I think that they just run up, and the Barrow happens to be one of them. I mean, the entire island of Ireland has rivers flowing into the sea, but it just seems that this is the only one that they run in Ireland. And I think it's the same. I think they run in Spain or Portugal. I could be really wrong. We are going to check this one out. Yeah, it's really, really fascinating. And I think that's what makes it such a special occasion, you know, to come out here and catch these fish that are really running in one area of the world. They're such a beautiful fish as well, you know, the shiny white purple. And you know what makes it even more special is it's happening right here in County Carlow, which is absolutely insane. You know, this is the Barrow that runs all the way through the county. And the Barrow Walk, I mean, like, the history of this place, St. Mullins, is incredible. The Vikings would have come up this river from this area here and raided, you know, these small towns, St. Mullins, Graignamanagh, up the way. There was, you know, the Barrow Walk. Obviously, the St. Columban Way is all the way from Athy down to here, and it's an absolutely beautiful place. You don't find many places like this in the world. So that's just a bit of interesting history about this place, and you can kind of feel it in the air, can't you? It's just it's a really, really, really beautiful place, and there's just something so tranquil. Fish rising right here. I'm gonna have to get the rod out into the water right now. Just because, you know, just because you're coming down here to fish doesn't mean that there's a sauna over here. There's a cafe to the right of me. It's an absolutely stunning place. Anyways, guys, let's get right down to business. Let's talk about shad. Let's talk about the equipment you're gonna be using. So to start off, this is my rod and reel combo here. I use a Weston Street Stick. It's an absolutely gorgeous rod. It's 8.1 foot or 243 centimeters, and its casting weight is 5 to 15 grams. Now, I think it is the perfect casting weight and the perfect size rod you're gonna be using for shad. I know a lot of people like to fish heavier so that they can get their lures across the other side. The river here is very wide, so getting your lures across the other side is kind of important. This rod will get heavy lures to the other side. It's a nice thin rod, but it's very long, and it's stiff, you know, and that's what you want when you're fishing for fish like shad. They have a very bony mouth. They're a very interesting species of fish, so using a stiff rod and the Street Stick. Weston obviously make incredible products, so you know, the Street Stick is just one of many great rods that they do have. Absolute favorite for me. Guys, I've got that rod paired with a Shimano Sienna size 2500. That has 4 bearings. That's a Shimano rod there, and on that I have about a 6-pound mono. Now, I know, look, you can fish with braid and a nice long leader. That works just as well for shad. But there's something for me that's just handy about fishing when you're getting bites all the time, because look, when the shad are biting, they're biting, and it's great. So yeah, I'll often fish a 4-pound mono. Now look, people will fish with braid and prefer to use a longer leader, and that's absolutely fine as well. But I find that when I'm catching shad very quickly, if I want to change my lure and I don't want to run out of leader, I don't clip the end of my line there. I just feel like the fish see it a bit too much. However, each to their own. Shad are very aggressive fish when they're you know, feeding, so you don't necessarily need a clip on the end of your line. I don't fish with one, that's just preference, you can absolutely. So yeah, that's basically the rod setup, and there's not much else to say about that. Like I said, it's a very simple form of fishing. The rod is stiff, it's long. The reel, size 2500, you can go lighter as well. But I just find this is my perfect setup, and this is what catches me the most fish. So yeah, let's move on to the business end. Let's look at those lures. Okay guys, so if you know the shad run, if you have ever done it, you know about Tasmanian devils. These are by far the most effective lures for shad, and it's just no secret. You can get them in any tackle shop in Ireland. I'd say any tackle shop in the world. They're very effective. They've got a wonderful action. It's a real wobble, kind of side to side, and they spin around. Seb was actually saying earlier they're much like the Tasmanian devil in Looney Tunes. I forget his name, but that's like, you know, they just spin round and round and round. That makes sense. Yeah, a super effective, incredible lures. There's just something about the action that the fish just love. You'll see old heads down here who fished the shad run for years and years and years, and they swear by them. So pick yourself up a few of these. And when the tide is high, you don't need to worry about snagging so much. But if you're trying to fish low tide, then you will need a few of these, because if you do snag up, which can happen sometimes, as we know, this is fishing, you're going to want a few of these. They are, you know, you could snag, you could snap off. Just get yourself a few. So yeah, the lure is pretty simple. It's a line through lure. They all often are. So that means you're slipping the line right through the middle of it, and then out at the end there's a treble hook as well that's going to tie to the end. You can get a bead. There's a treble at the end of it, and in between that treble and the lure itself there's going to be a bead, and I think that adds a little bit of extra noise in the water, which is great. They're wonderful. I mean, look, like if you're going shad fishing, you need Tasmanian devils. They're just the best. All right guys, so the next lure that I'm gonna say, this is a little secret because most people don't actually look at this. The spinners. Spinners they work a treat. Any sort of MEPS, little silver spinners, little gold spinners, anything like that will work exceptionally well. Yeah, I just can't get enough of them. People will often just say, oh yeah, no, you definitely need a Tasmanian devil. It's the only one that works, but I completely disagree with that. Spinners from size 0 up to size 2 will do the job just as well. I actually think they're a little bit of a secret because no one will really ever go out and fish spinners, but for shad anyways, but you just need to be doing that. It's just the right way to do it. Just to vary things up, to change things up. Don't always be fishing the same thing. Look, you won't get the same distance with a spinner that you will with a Tasmanian devil, but that's okay. When the tide is high, the fish are going to be everywhere, so it doesn't matter. Last but not least, guys, you will need a net, obviously, like with any fishing, and obviously some equipment for hooking the fish, but I'll get into that now. I have a 2.4 meter telescopic net here, which is great. You know, it'll pop out and that'll expand, which is what you need. The banks here at St. Mullins are quite high, and when you're fishing low tide, you're gonna not really be you're not really going to be able to get to the bank that easily. It is very mucky and muddy along the banks, and just because it's tidal, and to avoid getting stuck, you will need a long telescopic net. So make sure that you have one of those, and you can use one of those to get the fish that you know, to land the fish. Don't forget that you will need to have something to unhook the fish. Shad have teeth, and they are quite sharp, and also they're very fragile fish. I think that's something we need to talk about. Handling these fish with extreme care and extreme caution is super important. You know, they are very fragile, and often many fish will get killed throughout the year. Obviously, no one's out here trying to kill shad, at least I hope not, but these things do happen with fragile fish often. So if we land them correctly, we de-hook them correctly, and everything else goes well, that's what we're looking for. You know, that's what we want to do as fishermen. Just take care of the fish and make sure that they're released really safely. Okay guys, so now that we've run through the equipment and how to catch these fish, let's talk about what you're going to be doing when you're fishing, and when to fish for the fish. More importantly, when do you want to be out fishing? I find time of day is not as important. Obviously early morning and late evening would be the best time to be fishing, but that can be said about any fishing. And then the second most important thing, I suppose, they can be caught low tide, they can be caught high tide, so it really does come down to a matter of preference, or even if you just have, you know, a few hours to spare to come down to this beautiful place and fish, that's what it's going to be about. High tide is often easier, I find, to fish for them. They're not hidden as much. They're kind of all over the river from bank to bank, whereas when it's low tide, they often look for deeper water, and that can often be on the other side of the bank, and it can be tricky to get to without snagging in trees maybe on the other side. Deeper pockets are just harder to reach, and getting an accurate cast over and over again can be quite tricky. So high tide would definitely be, you know, take a look at the tides and see when would be the best time to fish for them in terms of when is the high tide. That would be my opinion on when would be the best time to fish for them. How you're going to be fishing for shad, it's very straightforward. Cast and retrieve, just over and over and over again. They are sea fish at the end of the day. coming into rivers to spawn, so you're casting across, whether it's upstream, just straight across, or downstream. I find that it's not really that important. Most of the time you'll find most people just cast straight across, and that seems to be the most effective way. So yeah, just very simple cast and retrieve. All right guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. Obviously shad fishing is a very simple type of fishing, but it is a very special occasion because it happens once a year and we don't get to do this all the time. They're a great sport, they're a great fighting fish, and they're just so much fun. You can bring the family down here and just have a wonderful day of fishing. So if you are interested in doing that, they should be running very, very soon, and if not already, stay posted because we are going to be down here when the fish are biting properly, and we are going to be making a video where we catch some great shad. So yeah, guys, thanks so much for tuning into the video. We'll see you next week.